Hello, hello. It's me, Michelle, your host and pocket DJ of Coffee Fueled Stories, a show where storytelling and coffee hang out. This month's guest is Nicole Wolverton. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me on, Michelle. I really appreciate it.
This is awesome. So, you are the first young adult YA author horror. So, this is so cool. I have lots of questions. Before we get started, though, please let the listeners know a little bit more about you.
Sure. So I am a writer based in the Philadelphia area. I consider myself a fear enthusiast. I have a master's in horror and storytelling, so I get to call myself that professionally, which I love. My writing tends to center around horror and thrillers, but I do write in other spaces, creative nonfiction, although let's face it, my creative nonfiction also has a foot in the fear world most of the time. I have two books out. One that was published like a zillion years ago. It's an adult thriller called The Trajectory of Dreams. And more recently, A Misfortune of Lake Monsters came out last July. And that is a young adult horror novel that is, as one of the reviewers or people who have read it told me, it's as if Hallmark made a horror film.
Well, I love Hallmark movies, and I was thoroughly entertained. And so, like I said, I'm so excited. I have a lot of questions to ask you about young adult because this was my first young adult horror that I've read. So thank you for that. So thank you for clarifying and telling us more about you. Without further ado, how about we jump in and talk monsters?
Let's.
All right. So the how about this? Why don't you let the listeners know a little bit more about the difference between young adult horror, even though you did just say it's like the Hallmark, but just to let them know, like horror, like we've got all different types of horror, but young adult horror, what makes it young adult? Like what are the specific elements that make it a young adult novel?
Yeah, so I will say that if you talk to somebody else, they're probably going to have a different definition because everybody seems to think it's something a little different. Uh, I mean, the basics, it has teenaged characters. It concerns itself with what are considered teenaged concerns. Most often, it has something to do with, coming into yourself as a person, asking questions about the things that are going to make you the adult you will become. That's kind of it, though. Obviously, it has something to do with author intention. Personally, I think if a book has a teen protagonist and is set in a teen world, it automatically qualifies, at least for me, as young adult fiction. However, you have things like Stephen Graham Jones, the first book in the Indian Lake trilogy. What is that called? It's, My Heart is a Chainsaw. Jade, the protagonist there, is just graduating from high school. She's not teenaged in subsequent books, but yet that first book to me feels a little bit on the YA scale, but it was marketed as an adult horror novel. The same is true with a book that came out probably about 10 years ago, Justin Evans' book, The White Devil. I think it is an absolute fabulous young adult novel. It was marketed as adult. And now you can't really say that that's true about the protagonist defining sort of what the book is in all cases, because then you have things like Incidents Around the House by Josh Mallerman, which is, it has what, like a 6-year-old as the main character? Clearly, that's not going to be a middle grade or young, like younger person book. It is clearly an adult book, but in the case of young adult, because it sort of spans those worlds, I personally think that yes, it qualifies as young adult. You also get a lot of people who think that young adult horror pulls itself back in terms of scariness or blood or, in some cases, situation. I don't think that's necessarily true. In A Misfortune of Lake Monsters, I don't think it is particularly a scary book, and I didn't hold back on blood.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, But the case kind of changes. There's the good thing about the young adult genre is that there's going to be something available for pretty much every level of reader,
Awesome.
which is lovely.
Awesome. Yeah. And so one of my favorite terms was in taking getting my master's in literature and learning about it is the Bildungsroman.
Yeah.
Like that is my favorite term. And that is just a coming of age tale. And when we learned about it, mostly, at the time, it was usually about young boys coming of age. And then obviously, more female characters and more women started writing. And now, like I think Bildungsromans can actually be applied to, you know, all different types of ages because depending on the character arc, you could have a 30-year-old character who's gone through some major trauma, who has survived final girl type of situations. Let's just be hypothetical here. But you could still have that character, still have that arc, and still have a new coming of age, so to speak. They're like, okay, I just went through this awful, horrible experience, and I just came out on the other side, and now I'm this type of person. So I think it can still be applied.
For sure.
I tend to push the limits on things. So I would like to say you could classify this as a Bildungsroman in a way. Yes.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, even though it's teenagers, and usually, like I said, coming of age, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I think you can use lofty literary terms, and I don't mean this in any derogatory way. I like to have a master's, but I like to think that literature isn't just this.
Oh no.
It's
And the
this.
horror genre particularly is so
Yes.
broad.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I like to call the show. Let's see if the mug will work. The NPR of horror.
I approve.
And the reason for that is because I don't want it to be all academic in its approach, but I like having those terms, the using Bildungsroman, it's a fancy way of saying coming of age. But being able to apply a lot of things to literature and vice versa. Like literature is everywhere. You can't get away from it. And that's
Yay.
like, I mean, come on. We've been telling stories by the fire for a very long time.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's really the basis of this show. We just sit around and tell stories, and we just happen to drink coffee or tea, in your case, which we're going to talk about. So now that we've kind of taken a deep dive, pun intended, and I love all your puns, all the things that you do. By the way, I suck at puns, so please pun away. I love puns. So, without further ado, let's talk about A Misfortune of Lake Monsters. So, being that this is your book, I would love if you would share briefly about your characters and the story, and then we'll start jumping in and talking about those crazy kids.
A Misfortune of Lake Monsters is a novel about a young woman. She's a senior in high school who is, for all intents and purposes, trapped in her rural Pennsylvania town because she's been tapped by her family to take over their generations long tradition of very secretly impersonating the town's lake monster, which brings in money from tourists and keeps their town afloat. And, obviously, this lake monster is a complete fiction, but she does find an actual lake monster has suddenly appeared in the lake, and she has to figure out how to tell her best friends and get their help to save the town and save all the people in the town from being eaten. Main character is, of course, Lemon Ziegler, and she is very much a people pleaser at the beginning of this story, which I think is a lot of what her character arc is. And of course, the other issue with Lemon is her question, and it's a question for the book for probably more than Lemon too, is how much you owe of yourself to other people, to your family, to your friends, to the town where you grew up, and sort of how that kind of affects how you see your future.
Yeah, like the weight of I was like, she has a lot of heaviness on her, not just, the costume. She like there's I was like, that's a lot for a teenager to bear. Like, goodness, like wow. And so, and I love that her name is Lemon. Like I've never experienced a character, with such a fun name. And that I wanted to ask you, like, did you intentionally pick something, like, okay, so we have Apple, right, Chris? So I don't know if you were like, okay, well, I'm gonna borrow from that idea and name my character Lemon. So I don't mean that as an insult in any way. It's just, how did you come up with the idea of Lemon for your main character?
I did want something unique, and I wanted something that sort of gave the impression that lemon was like nice to look at, but had like a sour interior. Like the interiority of that really spoke to me, but also, all right, this is going to sound a little ridiculous.
Okay, I'm gonna put
I
my
was
coffee down. Go.
looking for a new tattoo idea, and I don't know if you can, it's hard to
I
say,
I can see that. How
but
cool is
on
that?
my forearm when I was writing the book. Well, actually, after I had written the book, it was right when it had been acquired. But the lemon idea really resonated with me in a lot of different ways, and I loved the tattoo idea, so it stuck.
And you have to admit, the smell of lemons, there's just something so amazing about the smell of lemons. Like, I mean, you don't necessarily always want to eat lemons, but damn it, they smell good. Like, I don't think there's ever a time where I've ever, or citrus, like in general, like there's something really cool, like when you see like TVs at commercials where they do like the zest of lemon and it just squirts that citrus, that oil. I just love it. I just love it.
I've been
Um,
doing a lot of research on perfume and fragrance and scent for a new thing that I'm working on, and I'm doing like a lot of ordering of niche perfume samples, and a lot of my favorites have ended up being citrus based, which is interesting.
Very interesting. Okay, so we're going to completely segue for a second here because I love the smell of lemons, but I can't wear lemon. I can't wear citrus. I have to wear musk, vanilla, and sandalwoods. I have to wear that type of like vanilla, whatever that scent category is.
Yeah,
I can't do any floral or citrus. Like it just goes sour on me. So
that's
what does
interesting.
that mean?
Okay, so interestingly enough, I know a tiny bit about this. I had taken several perfume workshops in various places I've visited. The most interesting one to me, I went to Venice, I guess it was last year by myself. And I took a perfume workshop at the Merchant of Venice, which is one of the oldest perfumers in Venice. And the woman who teaches these workshops is a professional makeup artist and perfumer. And what she does is she takes you through three different eras, like historical eras, and explains what the scents are that are related to each era. And you smell these scents, which is interesting all on its own. But at the end of, well, the second half of the workshop, she lets you smell all the different perfumes in her perfumer's organ. And then she makes you your own custom perfume, which was amazing, right? But she kind of looked at my skin and was like, okay, well, you have what I consider dry skin, and it doesn't necessarily mean what everybody else thinks of as dry skin. But she's like, perfume on you is going to A, not last very long. So you're going to have to moisturize the shit out of your arms, which she didn't say moisturize the shit because she was very genteel, much more so than I am. Uh, but she also said that scent can sometimes change from what's in the bottle to what's going to be on your skin. So you may end up having the same kind of issue.
Oh, that's great. So it's fun. Okay, I don't drink a lot of water, first to admit it. So my skin is always dry. Um, so I kind of know that. I accept that, and I'm okay with that. Um, and I also think it might have to do. I love onions and I love garlic, and that stuff, of course, does come out in your skin. And so I think there's something about that's why I gravitate towards not pine, but like I said, sandalwood, vanilla, because those have a tendency to not smell so sour
Sure.
as the florals and the citruses. So,
So after the show is over, I'm going to send you a whole list of suggestions for things
okay.
to try. Because if things smell good on my skin, they might smell good on your skin. Who knows?
Totally. And I don't know about you, but so one of my favorite things to do with my mom was to buy her perfume.
Mhm.
And being able to buy someone perfume is very like it's intimate, but not intimate in like a creepy way. Because obviously, I'm just saying, like I know my mom, like I know her fragrance profile and what she likes. And so my favorite thing to do for Christmas, because her birthday and Christmas were right next to each other. And so I would usually try to buy her either for Christmas or her birthday, a perfume. And my favorite thing was to go down to the Macy's perfume section. And not for me, it was, and the ladies, I would walk in and I'm like, okay, I just need one. I just need one person to help me. This is for my mom. I need someone who can handle, these profiles and pick out the scents, get everything lined up and then walk, help me pick a perfume for my mom. And they were always so lovely. And my mom, it was always successful. I always was able to buy the most perfect perfume for my mom, which is crazy.
We are in the midst, well, I should say I am in the midst of trying to find a replacement for my mother-in-law for a perfume that she has worn since she was like 20. And it's been discontinued for years, but apparently my husband and his brothers bought her so many bottles of this perfume that she only just ran out. So I have samples for her downstairs in my living room for her to try. And I don't know that we're ever going to get close, but it's going to be a fun process, I think.
How cool is that? That is really cool. And so, on a final thought about scent and lemons, so you were in Italy. Did you make it to Sorrento by chance?
I have not been to Sorrento yet. Um, I've been to, so I go to Venice every other year for the art biennale. Sort of, that's my little vacation to myself kind of a thing. And my husband, I should also say this, my husband works for an airline, so we fly for dirt cheap. Otherwise, I could never afford to do that. Uh, so we've been to Venice a lot. I've been to Rome. I've been to Bologna, and those are the only three. Now, I'm hoping to get to Naples this summer. So
Okay.
we'll see.
Okay. Naples is okay. So let me just tell you. So I spent 5 weeks in Rome with my buddy a couple years ago, and he and then some of his friends came to visit, and we all went to Pompeii together, and then they eventually stayed in Sorrento. So what happened was I was staying with him, and then his friends came into town, and they had their own separate vacation that they were planning, but we all met up in Rome.
Nice.
And we decided to hang out and spend the day in Pompeii. And then from Pompeii, we went to Sorrento. The smell of lemons. We got out of the car and you are just hit with the smell of lemon.
Yeah, I have to get there then.
I went freaking lemon nuts. I did. I bought soap, handmade soaps. I bought what do you call those? Like a little dish towel for my mom covered in lemons, with the Sorrento logo on or crest. Um, like it, I limoncello. You bought a bottle of limoncello. You ate lemon gelato. Like we went lemon crazy. I'm telling you. So if you ever get a chance, go to Sorrento.
Fingers crossed.
Highly recommend.
Can't
Definitely.
wait.
Yes. So, on that note, let's keep talking about your book.
Little side.
So, I have questions for you. So, I'm
Yes.
going to hit you with some questions here. Um, my biggest question is related to like the cover. So the cover, you have scales in the book, and then you did this really cool ticket and the lemon sliced candy. Like that is brilliant marketing. I
Thank you.
I opened the box and I instantly was transported into this fantastical world that you had created. And I hadn't even read the book yet.
I'm so excited for that.
Like, was that a conscious effort? Like, how did you guys come up with this idea?
So I'm with a small press for this one, and the marketing has almost entirely been left to me. And I think that's true even if you're with a big five. They might take care of your ARC boxes, but mostly you're left on your own for marketing. With a smaller press, I was left alone with my ARC boxes too, which allowed me to be a little bit more creative about it. So somebody I work with designed the bookmarks for me, and I love the bookmark like you cannot believe. It's, as you can see, it's a little ticket to ride the Ziegler ferry tours to go out and do some monster hunting. And one of the things that I love about this is the friend that I had do these for the design work. She, in her spare time for fun, creates fake companies and does marketing for them just for fun.
Okay, that's a really good friend to have.
I'm telling you. So when I asked her to do these bookmarks, she had like the best time trying to figure out how to make it work.
Let's I love that. That
my
is
my little bookmark. So that was really fun. And then of course, one of my favorite candies is those like little gummy, you know, fruit slices. So it was a no-brainer for me to get those. When I'm at an event, I almost always have some sort of lemon candy. It might not be the gummies because usually you're out when it's warm and gummy candies melt. So oftentimes it's lollipops. They're a little bit more hardy in the sun, but it's so easy to find lemon candy. And I personally love lemon candy, and I hope everybody else does too. So I always have it with me.
yes. Who doesn't like a lemon something to suck on lemon? I love the lemon heads. Like those
Oh,
are
yeah,
awesome.
absolutely.
Oh my
I
God.
love a sour lemon anything.
Yeah.
And of
Yeah.
course, the book itself was designed by the small press. And one of the things I love about the book is the interior.
Yes.
Sort of at the front, they have like a nice little, scaled couple of pages. And the book is split chapters, like split POV. So Lemon's chapters have little bubbles for her being underwater, and Troy, who is one of her best friends, he also has chapters here are pine trees at the headings, which they did a really great job on the internal book design. I just love it.
Yeah, I like I said, I just then when I saw the opening of the box and I saw all the goodies and then I got into the book and then I was like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. And then what I did was so I was thinking Troy and Lemon are if you were to look at them as elements as well. So you've got the pine trees and he's earth, and then
Mhm.
you have her with the bubbles and she's water. And then also I like to nerd out on names, and so Troy's name means foot soldier, and I wasn't
Yes,
sure if you intentionally did that too.
it was intentional.
I had a feeling. I had a feeling.
Yeah, I think all writers have like this unhealthy obsession with like what is the meaning of names.
First thing I do, I literally write the character. So I don't know if this is like the literature major in me because this is kind of what they programmed us to do. The second, it's different reading at an academic level, but I'll never forget this because my professor for Victorian Lit, we had to read Middlemarch,
Ah,
and there's like 65 characters. And she literally was like, you will be making a family tree of all the characters. Like, you literally are going to have to keep. And so from that point on, literally, like I said, I told you I have 3 pages of notes. And it's because I want to be able to ask you questions and I don't want my stuff to be all over the place. So I'm literally looking at my character page. And then since we are talking about characters, I also love that you have Bob and Butterbeans also as characters. And those are
yeah.
dogs, doggies.
So Bob is basically it's a tribute to my late dog. I had a Brittany Spaniel for 16 years,
Oh,
whose name was Murphy, and she was just such a good girl. And when she died, I vowed to put her in a book, and that's how it ended up. She ended up as Bob the Brittany Spaniel. And Butterbeans, I don't even know where the hell that came from. I just love the idea of a bulldog named Mr. Butterbeans, and that's sort of how it played out.
I love them. I thought they're like I said, it was I so I don't want to give any spoilers, so we're not going to talk about something that happens.
Sure.
But to have Bob and Butterbeans in there as characters, I thought was just adorable. And I was like, now in my mind, I was like, is that like a conscious thing for like maybe more like young adult? Like I don't know if that has been done in adult novels is where I'm going with that.
Oh
Had
yeah,
or
for sure, for sure. So horror is hard for animals.
I
Oftentimes, when you
yeah.
have pets or other animals in horror novels or movies, for that matter, um, things do not go well for them. Let's say, and um, I can vouch, as you know, that Bob and Butterbeans survive. I won't say anything about, yeah. Um, but I have had some feedback in reviews.
But what we can speak of is I love how you have the Magic Monster store, you have Monster Candy, and of course you have Monster Poop. Candy, that is, not real monster poop, for the listeners. But I love how you created like all of these fun touristy things. You talk about the ferry, like so when you were building this world, like was that same thing a very conscious effort to really just pull us into this town and to add that extra layer?
Absolutely. Devil's Elbow, which is the town where Lemon and Troy live. Um, all right. So, first of all, I should say that as research, when I was writing the book, I went to Loch Ness in Scotland, right? And if you've been to Loch Ness in the area, you know that there are an awful lot of tourist schlocky kind of things that are sort of grouped around the Loch Ness monster. And that sort of helped me sort of formulate the plan about what Devil's Elbow is going to look like. Not necessarily that Loch Ness looks like Devil's Elbow, but the kind of situation where you have so much tourism wrapped around your cryptid, your legendary cryptid. And that's sort of what I wanted to play off of. And of course, you know, you go to other very touristy towns that revolve around a thing. Champy in Champlain, I guess it is. Other cryptids, you have stuff like that too. Or in the case of Disney, you go to Orlando and everything's very Disney. And so you get that very easy feeling of being able to wrap your town in this thing and make it much more visceral and sort of weird and kind of just a little bizarre.
That's awesome. And like I said, I love how you created this whole like I admire authors and world building because I am not a fiction writer. Like the things that I write are very nonfiction, blogging about coffee, stories revolving around coffee, and it's usually in for the most part it's like 99.9% uh nonfiction. So I have mad respect for any author who can create a fabulous little town and a world and characters and people that just entertain and delight. So, mad respect to you.
Thank you. It was actually so much fun to do, especially coming up with the ice cream names in the parlor. Like that to me was the most fun ever.
Okay, okay. We are going to pick up on food and coffee and tea is going to
Right.
be the next segment because we have a lot of food and things, food and fun to talk about. So, first off, on page 5, and this cracked me up. You talk about the mystery meat on page 5 from the cafeteria. Like
Whose high school cafeteria didn't have a mystery meat dish?
so gross. Like I was like, "Oh, no, she didn't take me back there." Ew.
I think ours, like in my high school, it might have been like Salisbury steak or something. I don't know. Whatever it was, it looked gross and I wouldn't eat it.
Oh yeah. I admit I had the worst diet in high school because I did not want to eat the food. So the only food that I did eat was from the vending machines, and of course it was donuts, Hostess crumb cakes, chips. I can't. It was just crap. It was. It was crap. I didn't eat good food until I went home. I
Oh, yeah.
ate, yeah, I ate crap all day on campus, and then at home I actually had a proper meal. So I'm sorry, Mom. Please forgive me. So, uh, Monster pepperoni. You had the pizza, even the pizza shop does you. That's what I'm saying. Like I had so much fun in your town. I had so much fun eating and listening and hanging out in this town, minus the
Well,
crazy thing that happened, but all of the fun stuff. So, you have pineapple ice cream with ginger. Hello,
yeah.
yum.
Do I want pineapple ice cream with ginger? Yes, I do.
Yeah, I I've never had it, and now I want it.
Hmm.
You put that in my head, and I'm like, okay, I'm on the hunt for pineapple ice cream with ginger.
I think you're going to have to make it yourself because no one makes it.
But I love candied ginger. Like, I had no idea that candied ginger was so delicious. So, like, the first time I ever had candied ginger, and I know this is going to sound really bougie, so I apologize. Um, my I went to Tahiti. My late wife and I, this was our bucket list trip. She wanted to have an over the water bungalow experience. And one of the things was doing a couples massage over the ocean, up in this. So it was on an island. It was actually, sorry, this is how bougie it's gonna sound. It wasn't Tahiti, it was Fiji. My bad. Um,
Nice.
so my bad. Uh,
Bougie.
Tahiti was overwater bungalow. Fiji was private island. Sorry. Like I said, we went big because that's what you
Awesome.
do. That's what you do when you talk about facing fears. So we went big for the last two trips before she was getting ready to go through stem cell transplant. So go big or go home. That's what we used to say. So we went to Fiji. We had a couple's massage over the ocean. And then afterwards, they give you this candied ginger. And they're like, it's supposed to help with the toxins. And I was like, I don't know. Like, seriously, the first time, like, because I was like, I'm not really a super big fan of ginger, like, let alone candied ginger. I'm like, I don't know. She gave the lady, she was so cute. She was like, basically shoved it in my hand and she was like, you will eat this and you will like it. Trust me. And I was like, okay. And she was this little tiny little lady, but she did an amazing massage. And so I was like, okay, I'll do whatever she says at this point. Oh my God, Nicole. Best freaking piece of candy I ever had in my entire life.
For sure.
It was big, raw, chunky, candied ginger. I wanted the whole jar.
Oh, yeah.
Because they did. They just had this jar, big jar that was like sitting out, and you're supposed to take a piece as you walked out and you went back to your little cabin. And I was like, I want to book another massage just so I can get some. Like,
As it should be.
how do I get my hands on this stuff? I became a candied ginger freak after that. So anytime there's like candied ginger or like chunks of ginger, I'm like, give it to me. And pineapple is like my favorite fruit. And so I'm like, let's see, ginger and pineapple. Yes, please.
If I ever see it being sold somewhere, I will let you know immediately.
Take a picture and let's send it my way. I do that all the time. Anytime I see something, I'm like, oh my God, I thought of you. So totally, like I will do the same thing. So there's Black Market Bakery is this amazing bakery that is in Orange County, Southern California area. And I used to go there all the time. And she made an apricot ginger scone. Oh my God.
Holy crap, that sounds good.
I'm gonna send you the picture I took that I sent to the chef.
Uh-huh.
It's me having, I'm like, oh, because it is the most amazing apricot ginger scone.
Yum.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yum.
So anyway,
Maybe
sorry, go please.
I'll make a batch. I don't know.
Oh, like I said, I had no idea like things could be so freaking delicious. I drink ginger tea as well. Like I
Oh, yeah.
actually don't mind ginger tea. So we're gonna segue into tea and coffee, because we are doing some more things with um, live coffee tasting.
Mhm.
So I decided you mentioned you were doing your, I'm going to call it copycat.
Yes.
You're doing your copycat of the cinnamon dolce latte.
Indeed
Yes?
am.
All right. Yes.
We're very
Cheers.
Thank
So,
you, my new frother.
yeah, now that was something that you decided to start making on your own?
Yes. So this is going back a couple of years when Starbucks started not being such a great place to support. Uh, I was like, all right, well, I really love a cinnamon dolce latte and I can't justify supporting them anymore. So I'm going to learn how to make them myself, which I did. Luckily, there is readily available cinnamon dolce syrup available, and it's a really easy thing to make and I feel better being able to make it at home.
For sure, for sure. So I decided to do in my version, my home. So instead of doing a live coffee tasting with highlighting someone else's coffee, we decided to do a home brew of our favorite drink that we can now support ourselves at home. So
Awesome.
I too did what you did. I was inspired by you. So this is so I met my wifey, my partner, at her coffee shop. She was the barista and owner, and she has her version is called a Bee Loved Latte, and it's honey and cinnamon. And so I have she helped me make this. So this is my home version of her beloved latte.
Aw.
And it is absolutely delicious. So cheers to you for home brewing coffee that we love so that we don't have to spend $500, at some other
Woohoo!
place, right? Here's to saving money. Mm. I did the same thing. I zhuzhed it. I call it, we don't have a frother. Um, so I didn't use the fancy espresso machine for this. I did a real scaled down version, but we do have I call it the zhuzher. It does froth, but it's not a fancy frother.
Oh, is
It's
it
a
the little stick one?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, with the yeah. So I zhuzhed it. So I do have my nice little layer of foam on there, and then topped it with the cinnamon. So so I was like, you know what? This is actually really good. I was like, I need to start making these more often.
Yeah. I mean, normally I'm a tea girl. I think you know that. I will drink like vats of tea every day. But every once in a while, I get in the mood for a coffee, and you gotta have one.
Yeah, yeah. So do you have a favorite tea?
That is a loaded question.
Oh no.
So, the tea I probably drink most often is from a place in Toronto called Tealish, and it is called Lemon Kiss Tea. It's a white tea and lemon. But you know how oftentimes when you drink tea with lemon in it, like that comes packaged with lemon, it often tastes like lemon pledge.
Yeah, there's like a bitter like finish.
Yeah, it's just
Mhm.
not good. This is super light and it's just like a lemon kiss. It's a kiss of lemon. Um, and it's because it's white tea, it's also very light anyway, but it also makes a fantastic iced tea. So that's my drink that I have like almost every day. However, my favorite tea is from a tea house that used to exist in Hong Kong. And it is tea that is made from a specific type of marigold leaf. And it is grown high up in the mountains of China, apparently. And this coffee, or sorry, the tea shop, they closed probably about 2021, 2022, after China started cracking down on Hong Kong more harshly. And they had run out of this tea even before that happened and couldn't send it to me. And I was heartbroken and couldn't find it anywhere. So, because I knew the variety of marigold, I have acquired seeds. And I'm going to try to grow a patch of marigold in my garden this summer to see if I can harvest and make my own marigold leaf tea. We shall see what happens.
That is so cool. So cheers to you for that. I hope that it goes well. That's one of the sad things is when you find a favorite tea, and my mom used to have this experience all the time. She would find a favorite tea, and then like the tea shop wouldn't exist,
Yeah,
several years later or 10 years later or
perfume.
something like that.
It's hard when everything like gets discontinued.
Yeah, yeah. And again, because it was always the perfect gift. I would love, so it was very easy for my mom, and she loved whatever I sent her. It doesn't matter if it was like the 50th packet of tea, she was
Oh,
happy to receive it, or the same thing, the 20th bottle of perfume. So tea and perfume were always, and I loved shopping for it too. Like I loved finding, what a new tea for her to try.
absolutely.
Um, I'll never remember. I think at one time I bought her like a block of oolong, or was it? I forget. It was this big block of tea, and like an inch thick or something like that. And you just kind of like break off a piece and you
Mhm.
steep it. So it was either oolong or Darjeeling. I don't remember. But same thing. I just thought it was like the coolest thing ever. I was like, Mom, I just got you a block of tea. They don't
You
sell
know,
blocks of coffee. They have like a blocks of tea. So. But yes, and then also you had mentioned coffee a couple times in the book, which I thought was really cute. Um, you mentioned on page 9 right off, and it was in reference to having too much coffee, and I thought was really cute because especially they're teenagers, and
oh, yeah.
so how much coffee do teenagers drink, and how much should they drink? And so I thought that was really cute, and I've got a little smiling face, and then you also mentioned it again on page 61. The
My mother used to constantly try to get me to drink coffee when I was a kid because my grandmother was like a caffeine addict. And, when you're 5 or 6 and you drink coffee for the first time, you're like, what the hell is this?
So gross.
Yeah. And, you never think you're going to grow up and crave coffee, but here we are.
Right? Oh my God, that's hilarious. Like, uh, so my mom was born in Argentina, and apparently they used to put espresso in the baby's bottles
Nice.
with milk. Obviously, it was mostly milk, but a little bit. And I was just like, good Lord, no wonder you people like your coffee. I was like, you
That
guys are
makes so
literally,
much sense.
right? I was like, yeah, 10 espressos for you in a day, no big deal.
Nice.
Yeah. So I thoroughly enjoyed your all your food references, the candy, the pot pie. I mean, come on. You made me so hungry with the pot pie. And
Oh,
Grammy was doing the pot pie. I was like, no, she didn't. No, you
it's
didn't, Nicole.
it's funny because like when you're writing, right, you don't really realize how much food you're putting into something. Because A Misfortune of Lake Monsters is not really at all about food, and yet there's so much in there. And like it kind of cracks me up because there are books that you read that the point is the food. Like Monica Kim's book, The Best Part is the Eyes, I believe it's called, which was a debut sort of horror thriller novel that came out last year. Adult horror, not young adult. Although it sort of straddles the world. The protagonist is like in college, I believe. But that book, you simultaneously are so hungry and also sick, like disgusted with yourself that you're hungry. And so it's like super intentional. But then, like, yeah, I don't know. You get to the end of a book and you're like, wow, there's a lot of food in here. Totally unintentionally.
But if you think about it, you have to make your characters realistic, right? And one of the things, and this is what pisses me off about certain TV shows, is if I don't see characters eating or waking up, like I don't care if the character brushes its teeth, I don't care if the character takes a shower, like that I can fill in the gaps,
Sure.
but you gotta show me a character eating, and you gotta show me at least getting in or out of bed. Like there's something about, for me, the importance of sleep, because otherwise they're not going to feel like a real person. Why?
Fair.
You need to give me a three-dimensional character, and in order for me to get feel that third dimension, that full effect of a character, they need to eat and they need to sleep. I don't care if they, like I said, I don't care if they drive. I don't care if eat and sleep.
I always find
Mostly.
see actors eating on screen because how a person eats, like their act of eating, tells you so much about a person. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I hate when they do like the cutaway. I'm like, I want to see a character actually, like the actor actually eating. I don't want, like, I'll watch them put the food in their mouth, and I'm like, don't you dare do a cutaway, TV. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. I want to see that person with that, I want it in there, and I want to see them like
For
swallowing it.
sure.
I don't know. I'm just weird that way, I
No,
guess.
I mean, like I don't love Brad Pitt, but I like to see him on screen because he's always eating.
I have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, it's really
Okay.
weird. Just a thing you notice.
And I don't, I'm, maybe it's the literature person in us because it is. It's very important for you to feel. Again, you have to feel that you're investing as a reader. You're investing a lot of time in all of these words. There's a lot of words, as we know, because 40,000 words is the standard, right, for a novel. So that's 40,000 words. I'm just picking generalization. Generalization.
Okay.
Right, generalization. 40,000 words. How much time as a reader does it take to read 40,000 words?
Yeah. Plus, you're going to be eating when you're reading. Let's face it. Who doesn't?
Okay, let's talk about that. I love to snack while I'm eating. What do you like to snack on while you're reading?
In this bowl, Parmesan goldfish. That is my sort of snacky kind of a situation thing that I almost always have next to me. Not the healthiest thing in the world, but you know,
You can, okay, so it has to be crunchy and salty, right? As opposed to like something
on gold.
sweet. Yeah,
I am very much a salty person rather than a sweet person. And so, like, it makes perfect sense when you know that my favorite food is cheese.
yeah, cheeseatarian.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love it. I love it. There's nothing wrong with being a cheeseatarian. You can survive being a cheeseatarian.
absolutely. My husband for Christmas this year, well, last year, bought me a literal miniature cheese cave. It's called the Cheese Grotto. And oh my God, it's amazing. You put it on the counter, you can put it in your refrigerator, and it has like a little shelf in it, and it's like the size of a small little birdhouse. There's like a brick that you wet, and it keeps the humidity perfect inside the house, so your cheese ages gracefully, like me and you. So it's fantastic. It's like the best Christmas present he could have ever bought.
I love that. That is so awesome. Oh, and yeah. So, and then of course, we could spend a whole episode on just cheese alone. We talked about perfume. Okay, you are my people. Okay, here's the shout out to Matthew. Okay,
Oh, tell him.
Matthew, thank you so much for putting us in contact
Yes.
because I could talk lemons, Italy, perfume, food, cheese, hello,
And Poe.
and oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, so let's go on that Poe note
Yeah.
because Pennsylvania. So Poe spent some time there.
Yes.
So have you gone to all of his haunts in Philadelphia in Pennsylvania?
So, not in all of Pennsylvania. I've certainly been to Poe House in Old City, Philadelphia. And, our Poe House is not quite as elaborate, if any of his Poe houses are elaborate, as, let's say, the Bronx, where Matthew used to work. And I believe there's one in Virginia, right? That's, I think, mostly the main Poe house that you think of. Um, However, Philadelphia is a weird place. I love it. It is the only place I can ever envision myself living because it's full of unhinged, fabulous people, and I fit right in. And so when I think of Poe, I also think of him as being a little bit unhinged, and he is also, as far as I'm concerned, Baltimore can't have him because he embodies the spirit of Philadelphia.
Oh, she just threw down.
You know,
Well,
we're a weird people, and he belongs to us.
he spent a lot of time there, and the only reason he was in Baltimore was because he was trying to drum up, he was trying to raise funds for his magazine that he was working on. So he wasn't actually like, um, again, we could probably dedicate a whole episode just to the Poe. But yes, I love that he is known in that area. So to go to the Poe haunts, the places like ugh, I'm so envious because I have yet to see any Poe places. So one day I do hope to make some treks out to the Poe places for sure.
When you come to Philly, not only do we have the Poe places, we have the Ben Franklin places. And Ben Franklin is as unhinged as the rest of us. Um, A Misfortune of Lake Monsters is about a cryptid, right? And so I'm obsessed with cryptids. And of course, one of the cryptids that is near and dear in the Philadelphia area is the Jersey Devil, which clearly it's not Philadelphia, it's South Jersey. But the reason I bring this up is because something I found out, I guess it was late last year, is the sort of Jersey Devil myth is wrapped up in Ben Franklin.
What?
I swear to you. So when you think of the Jersey Devil, you think 13th child of the Leeds family, blah, 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 blah. And apparently, the reason this sort of version of the Jersey Devil came about is because back in when Ben Franklin was hanging around Philadelphia, getting in trouble, he and his publisher friends and I guess some police friends were really angry at this Leeds family from Jersey who were very wealthy. And they started talking shit about him. And they called them the Leeds Devils. And so, you know, that game of telephone where, it gets passed down, that is how the Jersey Devil happened.
What?
It's frickin' Ben Franklin's fault.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I love and see, that's how literature brings people together. I love it.
Yeah. And
That is
also,
so cool.
again, why I love living in the Philadelphia area so much.
That is so cool. So the only time I've ever been to Philadelphia, it literally was the airport. So I'll make this story
Ah,
really, really quick. So I was in the Air Force and I was going from California. My Los Angeles was, so I was stationed in California first, and then I got orders to Turkey.
ah,
And in order to go to Turkey, it wasn't a military flight, it was a commercial flight, but we stopped at bases. And so the first stop was Philadelphia. And then from Philadelphia, we went on to, I believe it was the Azores, and then Italy, and then eventually Turkey. So it was like this long ass
quite a
flight.
flight.
Yeah, very, very long flight. But and so the return flight was very much the same way. The difference was, so it took me, I think, 16 hours to get there. It took me 24 hours because of weather. And so you will appreciate, I literally kissed the ground when I arrived in Philadelphia because I had been through some weather. So Turkey, so it, we were leaving Turkey. We sat on the ground for 2 hours in the plane, just sat there for 2 hours in the plane because Italy was under a deluge. So
Ugh,
but they couldn't change the flight. Like we were all military personnel. So they
yeah.
couldn't, delay. So they were like, let's just let them sit. So we sat for 2 hours on the plane. Finally, we could arrived in Italy, called my mom from a payphone 3 o'clock in the morning, like Italy time. Mom, I'm in Italy right now. I'll I'll keep you posted. So finally, we slept like in the chairs for like a couple hours, and then they're like, okay, everybody load up. We're heading out. Finally made it to the Azores. Same thing. Azores deluge. They're refueling, like downpour, downpour. I arrive in Philadelphia. And I was like, "Hi, I'm trying to find my connecting flight. For some reason, I don't see the plane, on the screen. Can you please help me?" And she was like, "That left yesterday." And I was like, "I'm military personnel. I'm trying to fly home. I'm on leave until my next station. Can you please help me?" So the lady was very sweet because, like I said, I had been flying and it was a nightmare. So she's like, "Yeah, you can go ahead and, and I think it was like flying, I don't know, let's just call it American." And she was like, "Delta has a flight in like an hour, you can go there." And so this very nice lady like pointed me to the next plane. And so like I said, I arrived a day later, but I
Oh my.
did kiss the ground when I arrived in Philadelphia because, like I said, it was a hell trip just getting to Philadelphia.
I'm glad that you had a good experience here. I know that that is not the case for everybody. Philadelphians have a reputation for being assholes. We're good assholes. Much like Darren in A Misfortune of Lake Monsters, he's an asshole, but he's their asshole.
He's an endearing asshole.
Yes.
Very true. And this was also in 95. This was in 1995,
I
so that was a long time ago. But
was
yeah.
here.
Well, hey, all right. Yeah. Like so I literally only have two experiences, and that's literally airport going and airport coming back. But one day I do hope to eat a Philly cheesesteak because I've never actually eaten a proper Philly cheesesteak.
It's funny because that is like the biggest argument in Philadelphia. Whether or not cheesesteaks deserve to be what we're known for, and two, where to get a decent one, because people will send you to Pat's, Geno's, or what's the one on South Street? Whatever the one on South Street is called. And none of them are that good. Like, there are two places near my house where you can get an absolutely banging cheesesteak. None of them are places that are known to tourists.
Well, and that's and see, that's why you want to you don't go to the tour. So in that regard, you don't go to the tourist place. You want to go where the locals go.
Befriend a local. We're not as
Yes.
mean as we seem.
Okay. So let's go down this Philadelphia hole since we're here. The Jack in the Box commercial. Have you seen the Jack in the Box commercial where, and this is an old, I think it's from the 80s or 90s, early 90s. Jack in the Box, they have an intern and he's, you they basically, so I'm slaughtering the commercial. I'm going to edit this. I'll correct it. An intern is working at Jack in the Box headquarters, and they need to find out more about a Philly cheesesteak. So they say, go send this guy to go learn more. 6 months later, he comes back. He's got a mullet. He's wearing like this jacket. Like he's literally like they're making. Obviously, it's supposed to be very funny. But my favorite thing is he comes back and he goes, "Yo, Jackie, I soaked up Philly like a sponge."
So, depending on where he was and if he was trying to get to a cheesesteak situation, he was probably in South Philly because that's where Pat's and Geno's are located. The accent is very much like that. If you've lived here your whole life and you've lived in South Philly, your accent is going to sound a lot like that. There's a lot of study of the Philadelphia dialect, both spoken and in ASL. American Sign Language has a Philadelphia accent. I promise you. Almost every region of the country of the U.S. and of course around the world has very specific dialects in American Sign. I took a class in American Sign at school, and that's the only reason I know this. One of my instructors is someone who studies the Philadelphia dialect in ASL.
How cool is that? So, okay, so I'm sure I took a linguistics class in undergrad, and we had to watch the video. I believe it was a public radio, sorry, public broadcast. It was, I forget exactly the name of it, but basically the guy travels around the US and he talks about the dialect in each location that he's at, and like in Appalachia, Florida, of course, California, and everything's dude, and it's all surf. It's very surfer lingo. I can't. My professors are probably like screaming at me in my head right now, and they're like, "I can't believe you don't remember it," but I don't because it's been a long time. But I did love learning about the dialects throughout the United States. Like, I just think it's absolutely like fascinating. And again, we could have a whole show on that too.
You could do a lot on Philadelphia. We have that whole Jawn thing going. I don't know if you've ever heard that. Jawn. This is a filler word that can be, it's sort of like in the place of thing. It's
Okay.
pretty widely used. You could be walking down the street and hear someone say, "Yeah, I went to that Jawns." And yeah, it's a placeholder kind of catch-all situation. It's very weird. You don't really hear it a lot, like when you're watching national television because it's so sort of niche.
Mhm.
But if you're local to here, it's included in a lot of advertising. It's really very strange.
Interesting, interesting. Well, like I said, my favorite, I have a couple of favorite Jack. I don't eat at Jack in the Box, so this is not, I'm not promoting them, but God dang it, their commercials. I love when he does like the Chipotle, like that commercial. If I'm having a bad day, I will go find the Chipotle Jack in the Box commercial and the Philly one. Yo, Jackie! Like it instantly just cracks me up. So I'm glad that it's not considered. I don't think it's considered offensive. Like
No.
I don't get upset about the Chipotle. You know, like it's funny. It's advertising. It's supposed to be entertaining.
When you come to Philly, I will take you to a place where you can hear the accent in real time and you will just die of delight.
I love it. I love it. I thank you so much. I'm excited, and I can't say enough about like I said, just talking with you and hanging out with you. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having
Um,
me on. It was fun.
cheers to you with your home brew. And I finally, so when I end the show, I have the guests wrap up and say, "Go forth and be magical." So I would love if you would send us on our merry way.
Go forth and be magical.